Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we're hearing about the unfolding of the universe and the great souls who have come to teach how to be spiritual beings, and all the incarnations of God that have come to help them, and how they have taught the saints to help us. There was one particular saintly person that lived about 500 years ago. His name was Sanatana Goswami, and he was the senior disciple of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was the last incarnation of Krishna to walk on the earth. And he wrote a glorification of this book that we're about to read from. It is called the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the book. Beautiful Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam means pertaining to Bhagavat or Bhagavan, or the personality of Godhead, the supreme authority. So it goes like this. It's called the Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, the beautiful glories of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. It goes something like this. Don't mind the Sanskrit, but just hear. Sarva Shastrabdi Prirusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Vedaika Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidwan Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistam Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin atini chochata kara hanamun jagadachin mam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna, Sangita. In the honor of the 4 college students that have come to join us today, which I hope is the beginning of a flood. These are just dribbles. We have Robert, we have Chase, we have Aisha, and we have Daniel. Thank you very much. They're from the Lone Star College up north of here, and they came from a program that our brahmacharis are doing every day at the colleges, and met them and chanted a little and maybe got a book or so, and they're coming to find out more about you. So we're dedicating this reading session to you, if it's okay with you. Great. So what I want to do is, in honor of them, I want to read the preface of this book to give you an idea more how to start. So just give me a book. Yes. Thank you, Shobha. Thank you. I'll keep your place. I won't lose it. This is the famous preface that was written by the... Oh. Thank you. This is a famous piece of literature, very short, just a couple of pages. It was written by my spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder, Acharya, or founder and teacher by example of this movement. In 12 years, at the age of 70, he went around the earth 14 times, and as I told our guests already, he had $4 in his pocket and had no idea. No family, no friends, no money, no backing, nothing. And in 12 years, he traveled around the world 14 times. He wrote, in addition to the first 3 volumes of this, about 70 volumes of books. Yeah, this is after he was 70 years old. Initiated about 5,000 devotees like me. Established 108 temples and communities around the world. And established firmly the only international society for Krishna consciousness. This is his preface to this book, which we're going to read today. We must know the present need of human society. And what is that need? Human society is no longer bounded by geographical limits to particular countries or communities. Human society is broader than in the Middle Ages. And the world tendency is toward one state or one human society. The ideals of spiritual communism, according to Srimad-Bhagavatam, are based more or less on the oneness of the entire human society, nay, of the entire energy of living beings. The need is felt by great thinkers to make this a successful ideology. Srimad-Bhagavatam will fill this need in human society. It begins, therefore, with an aphorism of Vedanta philosophy, Janmad Yasya Yataha, to establish the ideal of a common cause. Human society at the present moment is not in the darkness of oblivion. It has made rapid progress in the fields of material comforts, education, and economic development throughout the entire world. But there is a pinprick somewhere in the social body at large. And therefore, there are large-scale quarrels, even over less important issues. There is a need of a clue of how humanity can become one in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. Srimad-Bhagavatam will fill this need, for it is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. Srimad-Bhagavatam should be introduced also in the schools and colleges, for it is recommended by the great student devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, in order to change the demoniac face of society. Komara achadat pragyo dharman bhagavataniha durlabam manusham janma tat apyad dhruvamartanam. Bhagavatam 7.6.1. Disparity in human society is due to a lack of principles in a godless civilization. There is God, or the Almighty One, from whom everything emanates, by whom everything is maintained, and in whom everything is merged to rest. Material science has tried to find the ultimate source of creation very insufficiently, but it is a fact that there is one ultimate source of everything that be. This ultimate source is explained rationally and authoritatively in the beautiful Bhagavatam, or Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavatam is the transcendental science, not only for knowing the ultimate source of everything, but also for knowing our relation with Him and our duty toward perfection of the human society on the basis of this perfect knowledge. It is powerful reading matter in the Sanskrit language, and it is now rendered into English elaborately, so that simply by a careful reading one will know God perfectly well, so much so that the reader will be sufficiently educated to defend himself from the onslaught of atheists. Over and above this, the reader will be able to convert others to accepting God as a concrete principle. Srimad-Bhagavatam begins with the definition of the ultimate source. It is a bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by the same author, Srila Vyasadeva, and gradually it develops into 9 cantos up to the highest state of God realization. The only qualification one needs to study this great book of transcendental knowledge is to proceed step by step, cautiously, and not jump forward haphazardly, as with an ordinary book. It should be gone through chapter by chapter, one after another. The reading matter is so arranged with the original Sanskrit text, its English transliteration, synonyms, translation, and purports, so that one is sure to become a God-realized soul at the end of finishing the first 9 cantos. The 10th canto is distinct from the first 9 cantos because it deals directly with the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. One will be able to capture the effects of the 10th canto. One will be unable to capture the effects of the 10th canto without going through the first 9 cantos. The book is complete in 12 cantos, each independent, but it is good for all to read them in small installments, one after another. That's what we're doing here every day. I must admit my frailties in presenting Srimad-Bhagavatam, but still I am hopeful of its good reception by the thinkers and leaders of society on the strength of the following statement of Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.5.11. Tad vag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhadyavatyapi namanyanantas yashon kitaniyat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a transcendental creation meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious life of a misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though irregularly composed, is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Om Tat Sat. That's the preface. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So now we've been reading this every day for some time. So you're coming in at the end, so we're going against it for a second. But it's okay because the purports are self-explanatory and just tune in. We used to say tune in and drop out. I did that 46 years ago. Never looked back. Okay. This is Srimad-Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter. We're beginning with text 7, to the activities of Maharaj Rishabhadev, who was an incarnation of Krishna, who lived many, many, many years ago. Even though one may be very learned and wise, he is mad if he does not understand that the endeavor for sense gratification is a useless 557.
We came to Bharata now.
Oh, where am I? Oh, I said 557?
577.
577. My fault. You changed it at the end. Okay. Sorry. 577. Yeah, now we're in Bart, that's right. 577. Okay. Sorry about that. Everybody with us? 577. Now we're talking about Maharaj Bharata, who is the son of Rishabhadev, who we were almost ready to listen to a teaching from him. Canto 5, chapter 7, verse 7. In this way, being purified by ritualistic sacrifices, the heart of Maharaj Bharata was completely uncontaminated. His devotional service unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, increased day after day. Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the original personality of Godhead, manifest as the Supersoul, Paramatma, as well as the impersonal Brahman. Yogis meditate upon the localized Paramatma situated in the heart. Jnanis worship the impersonal Brahman as the Supreme Absolute Truth, and devotees worship Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose transcendental body is described in the Shastras. That means scriptures. Shastras mean scriptures. His body is decorated with the Shrivats, the Kaustuba jewel, and a flower garland, and his hands hold a conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower. Devotees like Narada always think of him within their hearts. Purport. Lord Vasudeva, or Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is very interesting, because the word Krishna is a Sanskrit name for God. And if you follow the etymology of the word, Krishna goes to Greek Christo, goes to Aramaic Krishna, goes to Christ in English. So it's exactly the same person, just a different language. Lord Vasudeva, or Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is manifest within the hearts of yogis in his Paramatma feature, and he is worshipped as impersonal Brahman by Jnanis. The Paramatma feature is described in the Shastras as having 4 hands, holding disc, conch shell, lotus flower, and club, as confirmed in Srimad-Bhagavatam 228. Kechit sudinantar Ridiya Bhashekishashe Pradesha Matram Purusham Basantam Chaturbhujam Kanjaratanga Shanka Gadadaram Dharanaya Smaranti. Paramatma is situated in the hearts of all living beings. He has 4 hands, which hold 4 symbolic weapons. All devotees who think of the Paramatma within the heart worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the temple deity. They also understand the impersonal features of the Lord as his bodily rays, the Brahman effulgence. So you know there's a thing about looking for the light. You've heard about that? Looking for the light. So this light is the bodily effulgence of God. And it is the background for everything. Everything's resting upon it. All the material energy is a transformation of it, of that energy. And then when the universe has come into being, then he expands himself into a feature that organizes and maintains each universe. But underneath it all, underneath this energy, there's a effulgence that's holding it all together. That's why when you're in a dark room, you can sometimes close your eyes and you can see something light, even though you're in a dark room. So that's the effulgence of God. And it's an aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the Absolute Truth. So the Absolute Truth sometimes is taught to be impersonal, sometimes he's taught to be personal, but he's both. So the teachings of the Bhagavatam give a most complete, definitive, concrete, and comprehensive explanation of all these things. And it's described in this book that we're reading, Srimad-Bhagavatam. So even if you hear terms that are a little bit like not so easy to put together right at first, I'm just trying to give you a little background so that you can kind of fit it together. So just like the sun, this is an example. Krishna is like the sun. He's not the sun. He's a person. But the sun is one place in the universe. but its effulgence goes everywhere. So there's three aspects of the sun. There's the effulgence, there's the sun planet, the surface, and there's the interior of the sun. So that's an example which describes how the Supreme Absolute Truth is ultimately a person who emanates the effulgence and has a expansion in the heart of everyone. That's called the Holy Spirit in the Christian Bible. And the whole thing together is the Absolute Truth. Just like the sun is, the subject of the sun is complete in the sunshine, the surface of the sun, and the sun globe. Text 8. Destiny fixed the time for Maharaj Bharata's enjoyment of material opulence at 1,000 times 10,000 years. When that period was finished, he retired from family life and divided the wealth he had received from his forefathers among his sons. He left his parental home, the reservoir of all opulence, and started for Pula Ashram, which is situated in Hardwar. The Shalagram Shilas are obtainable there. Purport. According to the law of Daya Bhak, when one inherits an estate, he must hand it over to the next generation. Bharat Maharaj did this properly. First, he enjoyed his paternal property for 1,000 times 10,000 years. At the time of his retirement, he divided his property among his friends and left for Pula Ashram. Text 9. At Pulaha Ashram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, out of his transcendental affection for his devotee, becomes visible to his devotees, satisfying his devotees' desires. Purport. The Lord always exists in different transcendental forms. As stated in Brahma Samhita 539, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan Nana Vataran Akarod Bhuvanena Kintu Bhavaneshu Kintu Krishnak Swayam Samababat Brahmamak Pramanyo Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The Lord is situated as himself, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is accompanied by his expansions like Lord Rama, Baladev, Sankarshan, Narayana, Mahavishnu, and so forth. The devotees worship all these forms according to their liking, and the Lord, out of his affection, presents himself as Archa Vigraha. He sometimes presents himself personally before the devotee out of reciprocation or affection. A devotee is always fully surrendered to the loving service of the Lord, and the Lord is visible to the devotee according to the devotee's desires. He may be present in the form of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Lord Nrsimha, and so on. Such is the exchange of love between the Lord and his devotees. So God is a person like us, but he's not like us. And in the Bible it says that man's created in the image of God. So he has a form, a personal form. It's human-like, but it's not human. We're here, but you can't be in your apartment at the same time. Not in this form. But he can be wherever he wants at the same time. Therefore he's omniscient and omnipotent and all-knowing. So omnipresent. So he can expand himself into any form he wants and be the exact same person. And his original form doesn't change. 1 minus 1 is equal to 1 in the spiritual world. That's spiritual physics. Text 10. In Pulaha Ashram is the Gandaki river, which is the best of all rivers. The Shalagram Shila, the marble pebbles, purify all those places. On each and every marble pebble, up and down, circles like navels are visible. Purport. Shalagram Shila refers to pebbles that appear like stones, with circles marked up and down. They are available in the river known as Gandaki Nadi, Wherever the river waters of this river flow, the place becomes immediately sanctified. Text 11. In the gardens of Pulaha Ashram, Maharaj Bharata lived alone and collected a variety of flowers, twigs, and tulsi leaves. He also collected the water of the Gandaki river, as well as various roots, fruits, and bulbs. With these he offered food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, and worshipped him. Worshipping him, he remained satisfied. And he did not have the least desire. Prayers vanished. In this steady position, he felt full satisfaction and was situated in devotional service. Purport. Everyone is searching after peace of mind. Who in this room is not searching after peace of mind? I thought so. Okay. Confirmed unanimously. Everyone is searching after peace of mind. This is obtainable only when one is completely freed from the desire for material sense gratification and is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam Yomi Bhaktya Priyachditi. Bhagavad Gita 9:26. Worship of your Lord is not at all expensive. One can offer a Lord a leaf, a flower, a little fruit, and some water. The Supreme Lord accepts these offerings when they are offered with love and devotion. In this way, one can become freed from material desires. As long as one maintains material desires, he cannot be happy. As soon as one engages in the devotional service of the Lord, his mind is purified of all material desires. Then one becomes fully satisfied. Savai pung san paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje ahai tukiya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janayat Yashvairagyam Jnanam Chayarahaitukam. The supreme occupation, Dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. By rendering devotional service under the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Srimad-Bhagavatam 1, 2, 6, and 7. These are the instructions given in Srimad-Bhagavatam, the supreme Vedic literature. One may not be able to go to Pulaha Ashram, but wherever one is, one can happily render devotional service to the Lord by adopting the processes mentioned above. Text 12. Then that most exalted devotee, Maharaj Bharata, in this way engaged constantly in the devotional service of the Lord. Naturally, his love for Vasudeva, Krishna, increased more and more and melted his heart. Consequently, he gradually lost all attachment for regulative duties. The hairs of his body stood on end, and all the ecstatic bodily symptoms were manifest. Tears flowed from his eyes, so much so that he could not see anything. Thus he constantly meditated on the reddish lotus feet of the Lord. At that time his heart, which was like a lake, was filled with the water of ecstatic love. When his mind was immersed in that lake, he even forgot the regulative service to the Lord. Purport. This is a symptom of ecstatic love of God. This is what happens to you when you become actually an ecstatic lover of God. You get these symptoms and your heart melts. Right now we've got hearts that are steel framed. They don't melt. They just get harder and harder as we try to get it on in different ways. Purport. When one is actually advanced in ecstatic love for Krishna, 8 transcendental blissful symptoms are manifest in the body. Those are the symptoms of perfection arising from loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since Maharaj Bharat was constantly engaged in devotional service, all these symptoms of ecstatic love were manifest in his body. Text 13. Maharaj Bharat appeared very beautiful. He had a wealth of curly hair on his head, which was wet from bathing 3 times daily. He dressed in a deer skin. He worshipped Lord Narayana, whose body is composed of golden effulgence and resided within the sun. Maharaj Bharata worshipped Lord Narayana by chanting the hymns given in the Rig Veda, and he recited the following verse, "As the sun rose." Purport. The predominating deity within the sun is Hiranmaya, Lord Narayana. He is worshipped by the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhur Bhuvak Swat Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. He is also worshipped by other hymns mentioned in the Rig Veda. For instance, Jayak Sada Savritir Mandala Madhyabarti. Within the sun, Lord Narayana is situated, and he has a golden hue. Text 14. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in pure goodness. He illuminates the entire universe and bestows all benedictions upon his devotees. The Lord has created this universe from his own spiritual potency. According to his desire, the Lord entered this universe as the Supersoul, and by virtue of his different potencies, he is maintaining all living entities desiring material enjoyment. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is the giver of intelligence. Purport. The predominating deity of the sun is another expansion of Narayana, who is illuminating the entire universe. The Lord enters the hearts of all living entities as the Supersoul, and he gives them intelligence and fulfills their material desires. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanavisto. I am sitting in everyone's heart. Bhagavad Gita 15:15. As the Supersoul, the Lord enters the hearts of all living entities. As stated in Brahma Samhita 5:35, Andantarasta Paramanu Jayantarastam. He enters the universe and the atoms as well. In the Rig Veda, the predominating deity of the sun is worshipped by this mantra, Jayak Sada Savritir Mandala Madhyabarti Narayana Sarasija Sanasani Vishta. Narayana sits on his lotus flower within the sun. By reciting this mantra, every living entity should take shelter of Narayana, just as the sun rises. According to modern scientists, the material world rests on the sun's effulgence. Due to the sunshine, all planets are rotating and vegetables are growing. We also have information that the moonshine helps vegetables and herbs grow. Actually, Narayana within the sun is maintaining the entire universe. Therefore, Narayana should be worshipped by the Gayatri mantra or the Rig mantra. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the activities of King Bharat. Okay, moving on to chapter 8, a description of the character of Bharat Maharaj. This is a summary of the chapter. Although Bharat Maharaj was very elevated, he fell down due to his attachment to a young deer. One day, after Bharat Maharaj had taken his bath as usual in the river Gandaki, and was chanting his mantra, he saw a pregnant deer come to the river to drink water. Suddenly there could be heard the thundering roar of a lion, and the deer was so frightened that it immediately gave birth to its calf. It then crossed the river, but died immediately thereafter. Maharaj Bharat took compassion upon the motherless calf, rescued it from the water, took it to his ashram, and cared for it affectionately. He gradually became attached to this young deer and always thought of it affectionately. As it grew up, it became Maharaj Bharat's constant companion, and he always took care of it. Gradually, he became so absorbed in thinking of this deer that his mind became agitated. As he became more attached to the deer, his devotional service slackened. Although he was able to give up his opulent kingdom, he became attached to the deer. Thus he fell down from his mystic yoga practice. Once, when the deer was absent, Maharaj Bharat was so disturbed that he began to search for it. While searching and lamenting the deer's absence, Maharaj Bharat fell down and died. Because his mind was fully absorbed in thinking of the deer, he naturally took his next birth from the womb of a deer. However, because he was considerably advanced spiritually, he did not forget his past activities, even though he was in the body of a deer. He could understand how he had fallen down from his exalted position, and remembering this, he left his mother deer and again went to Pulalahashram. He finally ended his fruitive activities in the form of a deer, and when he died, he was released from the deer's body. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, one day, after finishing his morning duties, evacuating, urinating, and bathing, Maharaj Bharat sat down on the bank of the river Gandaki for a few minutes and began chanting his mantra, beginning with Omkara. Text 2. O king, while Bharat Maharaj was sitting on the bank of that river, a doe, being very thirsty, came there to drink. While the doe was drinking with great satisfaction, a lion, which was very close, roared very loudly. Have you ever been to a place where you heard a lion roar? You ever gone to a zoo? Have you ever heard a few lions together roar?
No.
I was in San Francisco, Flashacre Zoo, many years ago, and I heard 5 or 6 lions roaring at the same time. Man, I mean, it's enough to just, you could leave your body right on the spot. I mean, really powerful energy. The roar of a lion. Just, it made your skin crawl and you just wanted to go out of there, This was frightful to every living entity, and it was heard by the doe. Text 4. By nature, the doe was always afraid of being killed by others, and it was always looking about suspiciously. When it heard the lion's tumultuous roar, it became very agitated. Looking here and there with disturbed eyes, the doe, although it had not fully satisfied itself by drinking water, suddenly leaped across the river. The doe was pregnant, and when it jumped out of fear, the baby deer fell from its womb into the flowing waters of the river. Purport. There is every chance of a woman's having a miscarriage if she experiences some ecstatic emotion or is frightened. Pregnant women should therefore be spared all these external influences. Text 6. Being separated from its flock and distressed by its miscarriage, the black doe, having crossed the river, was very much distressed. Indeed, it fell down in a cave and died immediately. Text 7. The great King Bharat, while sitting on the bank of the river, saw the small deer, bereft of its mother, floating down the river. Seeing this, he felt great compassion. Like a sincere friend, he lifted the infant deer from the waves, and knowing it to be motherless, brought it to his ashram. Purport. The laws of nature work in subtle ways, unknown to us. Maharaj Bharat was a great king, very advanced in devotional service. He had almost reached the point of loving service to the Supreme Lord, but even from that platform he could fall down onto the material platform. In Bhagavad Gita we are therefore warned, Yam hina vyatayantyete purusham purushar shabha samaduka sukham dhiram somritat maya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, The person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Bhagavad Gita 2:15. Spiritual salvation and liberation from material bondage must be worked out with great caution. Otherwise, a little discrepancy will cause one to fall down again into material existence. By studying the activities of Maharaj Bharata, we can learn the art of becoming completely freed from all material attachment. We can learn the art of becoming completely freed from all material attachment. As it will be revealed in later verses, Bharata Maharaj had to accept the body of a deer due to being overly compassionate for this infant deer. We should be compassionate by raising one from the material platform to the spiritual platform. Otherwise, at any moment, our spiritual advancement may be spoiled and we may fall down onto the material platform. Maharaj Bharata's compassion for the deer was the beginning of his fall down into the material world. Text 8. Gradually, Maharaj Bharata became very affectionate toward the deer. He began to raise it and maintain it by giving it grass. He was always very careful to protect it from the attacks of tigers and other animals. When it itched, he petted it, and in this way he always tried to keep it in a comfortable condition. He sometimes kissed it out of love. Being attached to raising the deer, Maharaj Bharata forgot the rules and regulations for the advancement of spiritual life, and he gradually forgot to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After a few days, he forgot everything about his spiritual advancement. Purport. From this we can understand how we have to be very cautious in executing our spiritual duties by observing the rules and regulations and regularly chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. If we neglect doing this, we will eventually fall down. We must rise early in the morning, bathe, attend Mangalarati, worship the deities, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, study the Vedic literatures, and follow all the rules prescribed by the acharyas and the spiritual master. If we deviate from this process, we may fall down, even though we may be very highly advanced. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.5, Yagya Dana Tapa Karma, Natyajam Karyame Bhatat, Yagyo Danam Tapaschaiva, Pabanani Manishinam. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. Even if one is in the renounced order, he should never give up the regulated principles. He should worship the deity and give his time and life to the service of Krishna. He should also continue following the rules and regulations of austerity and penance. These things cannot be given up. One should not think oneself very advanced simply because one has accepted the sannyas order. The activities of Bharata Maharaj should be carefully studied for one's spiritual advancement. Text 9. The great King Maharaj Bharata began to think, alas, this helpless young deer, by the force of time, an agent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has now lost its relatives and friends and has taken shelter of me. It does not know anything but me. As I have become his father, mother, brother, and relatives. This deer is thinking in this way, and it has full faith in me. It does not know anyone but me. Therefore I should not be envious and think that for the deer my own welfare will be destroyed. I should certainly raise, protect, gratify, and fondle it. When it has taken shelter of me, with me, how can I neglect it? Even though the deer is disturbing my spiritual life, I realize that a helpless person who has taken shelter cannot be neglected. That would be a great fault. Purport. When a person is advanced in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness, he naturally becomes very sympathetic toward all living entities suffering in the material world. Naturally, such an advanced person thinks of the suffering of the people in general. However, if one does not know of the material sufferings of fallen souls and becomes sympathetic because of bodily comforts, as in the case of Bharata Maharaj, such sympathy or compassion is the cause of one's downfall. If one is actually sympathetic to fallen, suffering humanity, he should try to elevate people from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. As far as the deer was concerned, Bharata Maharaj became very sympathetic, but he forgot that it was impossible for him to elevate a deer to spiritual consciousness, because after all, a deer is but an animal. It was very dangerous for Bharata Maharaj to sacrifice all his regulative principles simply to take care of an animal. The principles enunciated in Bhagavad Gita should be followed. Yam hina vyatiyantyete purusham purusharshava. As far as the material body is concerned, we cannot do anything for anyone. However, by the grace of Krishna, we may raise a person to spiritual consciousness if we ourselves follow the rules and regulations. If we give up our own spiritual activities and simply become concerned with the bodily comforts of others, we will fall into a dangerous position. Text 10. Even though one is in the renounced order, one who is advanced certainly feels compassion for suffering living entities. One should certainly neglect his own personal interests, although they may be very important to protect one who has surrendered. Purport. Maya is very strong. In the name of philanthropy, altruism, and communism, people are feeling compassion for suffering humanity throughout the world. Philanthropists and altruists do not realize that it is impossible to improve people's material conditions. Material conditions are already established by the superior administration according to one's karma. They cannot be changed. The only benefit we can render to suffering beings is to try to raise them to spiritual consciousness. Material comforts cannot be increased or decreased. It is therefore said in Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.5.18, Ta labhyate dukkavad anyatak sukham. As far as material happiness is concerned, that comes without effort, just as tribulations come without effort. Material happiness and pain can be attained without endeavor. One should not bother for material activities. If one is at all sympathetic or able to do good to others, he should endeavor to raise people to Krishna consciousness. In this way, everyone advances spiritually by the grace of the Lord. For our instruction, Bharata Maharaj acted in such a way. We should be very careful not to be misled by so-called welfare activities conducted in bodily terms. One should not give up his interest in attaining the favor of Lord Vishnu at any cost. Generally, people do not know this, or they forget it. Consequently, they sacrifice their original interest, the attainment of Vishnu's favor, and engage in philanthropic activities for bodily comfort. So we'll stop our reading there for tonight. One of the main lessons in these teachings, which is actually the pillar, the foundation, the cornerstone of our spiritual advancement, is the concept that we're not the body. We're not the body. We're not American, we're not Indian, we're not Hindu or Christian, black or white, male or female. We're spiritual beings, eternal spiritual beings. And this is the basic principle of spiritual existence, the basic principle of spiritual life. And it is the one conception that if we can grasp and actually grasp it and see through this knowledge and lose our differences then we can have some peace in the world. Then we can actually cooperate together. Then we can have love. So we know it. Every single one of us knows it already, because our body used to be this big. You can put any one of us, a baby picture of us when we were 1 month old, right? And you could put a whole bunch of pictures of those bodies of each one of us in a picture, in a collage. Okay, find yourself. Well, I don't know, It doesn't look anything like us because it's a different body. We're taught, no, it's the same body, it just grew. But what does growing mean scientifically? Every single cell in the body changes. And every 7 years, we've got it. You got it. Yeah, you got it. So every 7 years or so, you have a different body, literally. But you're the same person. I remember when I was 5 years old, I did something stupid, Same person I was. Or another way of looking at it, when I go to sleep at night, I dream. And I fly through the air. I sometimes go somewhere else. I do so many things, but my body's laying in the bed. So in all these ways, the Vedas teach us how to see through knowledge the fact that we're not actually the body. So we shouldn't be so attached to it. It's not that we should neglect it. That was one of the things, the lessons here, that Bharata Maharaj shouldn't have neglected his spiritual practices just because there was some helpless living in. We should try to help others, but not at the expense of our own spiritual bliss or spiritual consciousness. Because otherwise we won't be able to help anybody. If we're not spiritually tuned, we won't be able to help tune anyone else up spiritually. Yes. This is spiritual conception. And it's material conceptions that keep us apart from one another. And it's spiritual conceptions that help us to unite on a spiritual principle that we're all coming from the same place. And if we learn to cooperate together to serve the Supreme, then we can actually be together. Whatever the differences are, it doesn't make any difference.
Keep going.
I'm going.
Not stopping you.
I'm not.
I agree. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so now we come to a favorite part of our program, which is called the open mic program. Yeah, we got a mic right here. And now it's your turn. You can either, anything that caught your mind, you want to reflect on, or you want to discuss deeper, discuss more about, or ask a question, or anything like that. Be my guest.
Be a question.
Yeah, question?
I have a state.
Yeah, go ahead. There's your mic. Yeah, you're on the mic. You're being broadcast all over the world. Be careful. This is Aisha speaking.
Okay, so
And we're going to turn this around, so everyone can see it.
Oh, he's like, now I gotta fix myself.
Yeah. Get yourself together. Get yourself together.
Okay, so I just have a statement.
Yeah.
Just hearing how you were talking about just becoming one with yourself, like not neglecting your body, just try to continue to like do the uprising with the spiritual. That made me think a whole lot about the purpose that we were doing for the club, because we were actually starting a club on campus based off of all of this, because it's absolutely amazing to me.
Nice.
And I came up with a purpose, and it's just so crazy how what you were saying goes directly with the purpose that I created for our club, which is become one with yourself before you can become one with others.
There you go.
So that just kind of hit me. I was like, oh, wow, I'm
There you
spot
go.
on with that.
There you go. That's the idea. That's exactly the idea.
Yeah.
As soon as you said that, I was gonna tell her that's what.
Yeah, I was just like, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
She wanted us college students to not be so stressed about any problems that are at home or at school or anybody around you. You just want to be one with yourself before you can even be one with anybody else. Because how can you be with somebody else when you're not one with yourself?
That's very true what you just said. It's kind of like an aphorism, be one with yourself. But we want to go deeper, and we want to understand more deeply what that actually means. You know, to be, because there's two souls in every body, in every single living being, whether you're human or animal or snake or a plant or a bird or a fish, whatever you are as a living being, there's two souls. There's the individual soul, that's us. There's an individual soul. Eh? Oh, I got it. Hey, this is tech land, man. We got tech. We got tech. That's okay. That's all right. We're serious.
I have a question. How do we go about not worrying about the material things? If that's how
This is Chase speaking.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
How do we go about not worrying about the material things if we go to work to earn money to support yourself, your family? How do you not worry about the materials?
There's a verse in the Gita that says, Karma jayo yakarmana. Karma means work.
Mm-hmm.
Karma jayo yakarmana. It means that everyone has to work. There's no one that doesn't have to do some kind of work. Even if they're just a beggar on the street, or they're homeless, or they're just another, they have to do something to get the food into their mouth. Even if they sit there just like this, and somebody puts something in, they got to work to put it in the mouth. They got to put it in the mouth. You know, there's nobody that can just get away with doing nothing. So that's a basic principle of existence within this material world. But the spiritual principle is that we shouldn't work just for ourselves. Now we're coming to the platform of sacrifice. Everybody know, even when we're kids, when we're little kids and we see our mom doing something, or some kind of event or something, it's our nature. We want to go and help. You know, until we get old and, you know, have sex and think that everything's okay and then we don't have to do anything and we're looking to get out of it. But that's why in the Bible it says that we need to become as a little child to enter the kingdom of God. That means innocent, you know, innocent or meek, humble, you know. So the way to do that is to work, but to work as a principle, as sacrifice to the Supreme. Like I said, there's two souls in the body. There's the individual soul. When I pinch myself, you can't feel it. When you pinch yourself, I can't feel it. It's the individual consciousness, the predominating individual consciousness in this body that is the individual soul. And consciousness emanates from the spiritual spark, or the soul, in the spirit soul. And that consciousness emanates throughout the body and makes it conscious and allows the innate element to feel and to taste and do all of these things. So the soul leaves the body is useless. You might as well burn it, or actually there's a law in every country of the world. When a human body dies, when the soul leaves the body, you have to get rid of it right away. You only have a certain amount of time, otherwise it starts to decompose, and there's all kinds of diseases that come, and it's not very nice. Odor comes, you can't be around it. But there's another soul. It's called the super soul. That is an expansion of God. We're also an expansion of God, but we're an expansion of an infinitesimal particle. We're infinitesimal, but we're consciousness. We're a conscious being, but we're infinitesimal. So our ability to be free, our ability to desire, ability to do things is limited. But the super soul, the expansion of God or Krishna, is in every single being the same person. So when you pinch it, he feels it. When you pinch yourself, he feels it. He knows what's going on everywhere. That's what omniscient and omnipresent means. So basically, this is revolutionary, to actually have a concrete idea of who that Supreme Person is and who that individual soul is, to come to the point of realization of who you are, who is God, and what you should be doing about it. So you may work, but you have to think. There's a nice purport in the Bhagavad Gita, which I very highly recommend you read. This is the ABC. This is the beginning book. The book we're reading from is the next book. But anyway, in the 7th chapter, verse of the 18th chapter, there's a nice verse which answers your question. It goes, Cetasa sarvakarmani mai sanyasya matparaha buddhi yogam upashritya machchita satatam bhava. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So if you, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, the Sanskrit word matpada is very important in this verse. It indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna, which means to satisfy God. This is not so much different than, just a second. And while working in that way, one should think of Krishna only. Quote, this is the mind, or you thinking, the proper way to think. I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. So it's very simple. If you learn the art of thinking about Krishna, who is giving you everything, the air to breathe and the water to drink, and of course the human beings are ruining it now, but hopefully we'll turn it around, but if we do it, we don't. Each individual person's got a choice. So we work for Krishna directly. We go out and we distribute books. We publish books. We have festivals. We worship deities. Many of us have regular jobs. And those persons who have jobs, they give something to the temple, to the community. And that way we have what is called spiritual communism, or we pool everything, all resources together, and we don't feel attached to it, to the fruits. We have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to have whatever we have to keep our bodies and souls together. But we don't have to be overly attached to it. That's the lesson of today's lesson. He felt compassion. Compassion is not a bad thing to have, for a helpless being. But he became too compassionate. He became too attached. And therefore he forgot his spiritual duties. He forgot his spiritual work. He was there to work, to do his work. It was a different kind of work, doing austerities, living, simply in the mountain and all those kinds of things. And he forgot that in order to have, because he was overly compassionate about the body of another living being. So we do have compassion, and we do care for our own bodies and souls, and the bodies and souls of others, and our family members, and all those things. But we don't become so attached to them that we become selfish, and we forget our own spiritual interests and the spiritual interests of others. If you work for your spiritual development and help others in their spiritual development, then your work is perfect. And in the beginning, you may just, like when Prabhupada started the movement, like I said before, he came with nothing, and some of us just joined him, not knowing what was going on, and some of us were working. And we would just give him our paycheck. And then we lived there together in a very simple way. And that way, gradually, over years, he built up this movement. And he taught us all how to do what we're doing for the satisfaction of Krishna. And that brings us all together with a common goal, a common end. I mean, it's not so much different than, the different major religions of the world. They have their churches and their congregations, and they get together and they have Sunday services and they have, social events and everything. But the difference is they don't have a concrete conception of God. If you ask him, if you keep scratching down deep enough, you'll find out. They don't really believe that he's a person. Because they think of a person like me and what I can do. And when they hear about what God does, they say, no, a person couldn't do that. So then they make up this idea. They just make up that God must be impersonal. In the spiritual world, there must be no forms, because here there are forms. Spiritual world is opposite the material world, so there they must not be forms. But that's not true. There's an actual process by which the spiritual world is reflected into the material energy. And all the information content that's needed to create all the different forms and species of life and environments that we live in, and all the things we play with and work with and everything, they're all transformations of that spiritual world. So there's an eternal spiritual world, and there we have spiritual, eternal, devotional service. And here, in the material world, we're meant to practice doing spiritual activities, to practice being spiritual. And then when we leave our bodies, and everybody has to leave the body, there's not one living being in the history of the universe who has lived in a material body forever. Period. No matter what the scientists tell you, just give us a few more years and we'll figure it out. Where now you can get a new arm and a new hip and a new this and a new heart and a new this, and pretty soon we'll be able to just keep the whole thing going forever, and you can keep on living forever in that material body. It's hogwash. That's English word, hogwash. Sorry, English. Hogwash. It's nonsense. It's bogus.
Okay, thank you.
So the goal of life is to think in devotional love of Krishna when you leave your body.
Okay.
If you can learn the art of loving God to the point where you can think of him concretely, because God's the supreme, he's this and that, but unless you have a form, unless you have a person, unless you have activities, unless you know what to do, unless you know what that person likes, and you know how to act like in a way that he'll like, it's just up in the air. It's we call it horse egg. Eggs. Horses don't lay eggs, so therefore the word horse egg doesn't mean anything. Or a castle in the sky. A kid can lie on his back and see the clouds forming different forms and imagine there's this and that. You can see all kinds of things. Meaningless. So we're all like that. We're living in this material world, and all the forms are changing all around us, but there's something inside of us that doesn't change. That's the soul. We don't change. We're the same person. We're the same person when we were a little kid, and we like to just play and goof off. And before you went to school, you didn't have to do anything. Well, your mom came and said you got to eat this. No, I don't eat it. But we had to do it, and then we wanted to go. No, I don't want to go to school. Forget it. But you had to go to school.
Yeah.
That's material existence. We're under laws of nature. We're not free. You think you're free? Okay, I've decided I don't want to go to the bathroom. No, doesn't work. Not one single person in the history of the universe has ever been able to not go to the bathroom. That's it. So we're not free. We think we're free, but we're not free. That thought that we're free when we're not free in the material world is called Maya, or illusion. We're in illusion. We're living in a dream. We're living in a body that's constantly changing. We go to dream at night, and we're in a body that's constantly flying through the air or running from a tiger or having some romance or whatever we do in dream. And sometimes we wake up, it's, oh man, I'm glad that didn't happen. I didn't, miss my train, or, if I lose all my baggage or whatever. Or I was doing something really cool, when I wake up and I say, oh man, that was so good. Maybe I can get back that dream, and I go back and I try again. Never works.
Tell me about it.
It's gone, and I'll never get it back. So that's it. But the person who's experiencing those sensations, the exhilaration of flying without a plane, just put a towel behind you and run, and woo, there you are, in the dream. And now they're, flying through the air because we were birds once. We were in a bird body one time. We want to, therefore we know all these things. But we're not any of those things. We're pure spiritual beings, and we have a form. Everybody knows it. This body is inert. You can tourniquet this arm and make it go, and then you can stick it, you can cut it, you can't even feel it. I broke my arm last summer, and I had to have an operation, and they put a block on this part of my body, and my arm was just like, it was an appendage. I would move like this, and the arm would go like this. I had to be careful. I had to wear it in a sling like this, otherwise I'd bang it and mutilate it, without even knowing, because it was dead. And I realized, hey, this body is actually dead. It's just because I'm in it, but it's not dead. Robert.
Yes, sir. What are ways that we can kind of get away from this material world and daily steps to get to the spiritual world and come to pure?
The first thing you have to learn is the art of controlling the mind and the senses. Because the mind and the senses just want to take us here and there, whether it's good for us or not. So the basic process, the basic activity of devotional service in this movement is to meditate on transcendental sound. That's what that Hare Krishna mantra is. That's why you got those beads. You chant this Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This sound, in the Bible, in Genesis, there's a verse that says, in the beginning there was God. In the beginning there was the sound, the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. Yes, the Word was God, and the Word was with God. So what this means is that spiritual sound is different than material sound. If I'm thirsty and I chant water, 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 I won't quench my thirst, because there's a difference between the sound, water, and the substance, water. That's the material world. Duality. Up and down, black and white, heat and cold, this and that. Everything's full of duality. So, but in the spiritual world, the sound of an object and the object are the same. Absolute. Because the energies that form the bodies and the forms in the spiritual world are all spiritual. The energies are all spiritual. There is no embodied soul in the spiritual world. We have a spiritual body, a spiritual form, but now it's atomized and it's shrunk down into a spark, spiritual atom, spark, and it's emanating consciousness, just like an atom can emanate, a radioactive particle can emanate radioactivity. So the spiritual spark, which eventually, when it leaves the body pure, when it becomes free from identification with the body through the process of chanting Hare Krishna, by meditating on that sound and the sound of the Gita and the Bhagavatam, by learning the art of transforming what you eat into spiritual energy, We do that. There's a process for doing that. We cook with love for Krishna. We offer that food with love to Krishna. And then we honor that food as being Krishna Prasad, the mercy of Krishna. And when you do that, it has a different effect. It tastes different. It has a different effect on the body and the mind. And if you eat only Krishna Prasadam for 7 years straight, all the cells in your body are rejuvenated from spiritual energy, and you have a different capacity to understand spiritual subject matters and spiritual taste. So we recommend that you chant this Hare Krishna mantra, that you offer your food, and we'll teach you how to do that. It's very easy, very simple. Come with us and chant, and we have gatherings where we chant together. We have a little feast or a little prasad. We go to our temple. We have services in the temple. We come here. We get together every day and we read. We have programs, and we follow certain principles to control our senses. This is the tough part. The other is the ecstasy. This is the part that you have to do in order to get a body that's purified and a mind that's purified enough to get a taste. And we have 4 regulative principles that we follow. In the Vedas, there are so many rules and regulations. We can't even think about them, what to speak of do them. But now we're fallen in this Kali Yuga, and we can't do so many. But these 4 are the pillars of going against the laws of nature. One is gambling. We don't gamble. We don't try to get something for nothing.
Okay.
You try to get, oops, ouch. Oh, no, what? No, but if you try to get something for nothing, it teaches your mind to be dishonest.
Okay.
That's where untruth comes from. It comes from gambling, trying to get something for nothing. Then we don't take intoxication. We don't alter our consciousness with material substances, because the spiritual soul is not material, and you can't get to the spiritual soul with a material substance. So we don't take intoxication. We don't eat meat, fish, eggs, anything that's produced from the blood and semina of living beings. We take fruits and grains and milk and vegetables and fruits and like that, because all those living beings, they give the food. They don't die. You take an apple from a tree, it keeps living. You take the grain, they grow the grain, and the grain dies, and then it gets golden, and then you take the grain. Same with take milk from a cow, So we don't eat animal products and those kinds of things. And we don't have illicit sex, means sex outside of marriage.
So
Yeah.
hold on. Wait.
That's the tough one.
Yeah, that's how I was when he first said. I was like, huh?
So you gotta be married to have sex?
That's right. That's right.
Ooh-wee.
And then if you're married, you can still take that vow
Yes, that's right.
of celibacy.
And
marriage.
that's right. And that's one of the problems. That's one of the major problems in the earth, because we're all after sensual gratification. And if we're not getting spiritual gratification, if we're not satisfied spiritually, then sex is the culmination of material pleasure. It's the most intense material pleasure that you can have. But it isn't as intense as spiritual pleasure. Until you taste spiritual pleasure, you can't imagine not having sex. You can't imagine. It doesn't even can't enter the mind. But if you taste something higher, you can't give up something. We're not going around all like this. Oh no. We're not doing that. We're not just biting the bullet all day. We got things to do. We got happiness that comes from a spiritual platform, and we don't think of those things because we're meditating on what? We're meditating on the transcendental form and activities of the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, God has, His activities, and He has associates, and they're very, very interesting things that they do. And if we learn what they are and learn to meditate on them, then the sex is like, oh, no, I don't think so. It's not so clean, and it's like animalistic, and it causes, what's the end result? Maybe it's going to give a flash, instant flash, and then what? And then it comes on later. There's a nice verse in this book that talks about this. You're ready, right? Maybe you're not. Anyway, as we used to say when I was a kid, ready or not, here we come. Ready or not, here we come. Food. Happiness. 18th chapter. I gotta look it up. Sorry. Don't remember the verse. Huh?
Like it's just instead of doing the same thing, I'm like, why are you still trying?
Why what?
It's probably blind.
Probably it has to be. It's been doing that for like 5 years. I mean, yeah, but obviously you can't.
This is us in the material world. We
Yeah,
go to
just
the
go
light.
around in circles.
We go to the light, and then we die. Because the moth is attracted to the light, and if that was a fire, which he'll do the same thing with the fire, he'll just fly into it and die. Yeah, that's why in India, where you don't have so many amenities, you can go in front of a light bulb and you'll see in the bottom of the light bulb, there's all kinds of insects that are just, that's the way they live. Okay, what was I looking up? Yeah, happiness.
Rati Manjari said 1838, question mark?
Right, happiness. Maybe. I was close to it.
You don't die, come over here.
What? Yeah. So there's 3 kinds of happiness in this world. Happiness and goodness, happiness and passion, and happiness and ignorance. Everything can be analyzed in terms of these 3 modes of nature: happiness, passion, and goodness. I mean, happiness, passion, and passion, ignorance, and goodness. So, now please hear, O best of the Bharats, now please hear from me about the 3 kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys, and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end it's just like nectar, and which it awakens us to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be in the nature of passion. A young man and a young woman meet, and the senses drive the young man to see her, to touch her, and to have sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but at the end, or after some time, it becomes just like poison. They're separated, or there's divorce, there's lamentation, there is sorrow. Such happiness is always in the mode of passion. Happiness derived from the combination of the senses and sense objects is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. One who takes pleasure in laziness and in sleep is certainly in the mode of darkness, ignorance. And so one who has no idea how to act and how not to act, and also it is also in the mode of ignorance. For the person in the mode of ignorance, everything is illusion. There is no happiness either in the beginning or at the end. For the person in the mode of passion, there may be some kind of ephemeral happiness in the beginning, and at the end distress. But for the person in the mode of ignorance, there is only distress both in the beginning and the end. So there's all kinds of issues here that are discussed in terms of these three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. It's a deep science. You can't understand it all at once, but these are the principles. Mm-hmm. If you learn the art of living in goodness, then you become gradually, your senses and your mind become satisfied, not so restless, and you're not always looking for the thing, that's going to, wind you up or turn you on or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay. That was a nice passage. It made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's not easy, because in this age we're living in now, ignorance is very, very thick.
And it's in there, for sure.
And everybody's going for it. So if you want to take spiritual life, you have to be a hero. You have to actually be a hero.
So as long as we follow Krishna, everything else should just fall into place.
Yes. It takes time. It takes practice. We'll always be tested. Like Bharata Maharaj, he came right to the end. He was ecstatic, and he got waylaid right at the end. He was in this forest, and he got waylaid by a deer. So we have to be careful. But if we stay, the Prabhupada explained to us that the defect of Bharata Maharaj's devotional service was he was by himself. He didn't have a spiritual master consult. He didn't have other devotees around him to keep him safe. Like in the material world, there's social pressure, but the social pressure in the material world pushes everybody to do the wrong thing. But the social pressure in the spiritual world pushes all of us to do the right thing. So we agree, we're social beings. The living being is a social being, whatever body you're in. You see the birds flying, and they're all flying, birds of a feather flock together. They don't mix so much different species, but they're pretty far out. One starts and they all go, Anyway, when geese fly, did you know this? They arrange themselves so that they fly like this. And the reason they do is because some of them get caught in the jet stream. Like you get behind a big truck and you're in your little whatever it is, and you just get behind that jet stream and it carries you, or you're on a bicycle and you just hold on to a truck and you go very fast. So they have an arrangement, the geese, and they'll change the lead one, because the lead one has to take the whole brunt of the air, and then they'll change and the new one will come up. Did you know that? Yeah.
I never knew that they changed. I know they fly in the V.
Yeah, they change, and then they help. If one goes off, then it gets weak, the other one goes and helps him, brings him back into that, and then they go. So yeah, this is social life. Every single anthill is going to an ant. They did this experiment. There was an abandoned anthill, so there was a hole. So they put this liquid metal into that hole, and then they let it cool, and then they broke apart all the dirt and everything.
Oh, and and it was a whole house.
Not just a house, it was a city.
Yeah.
With freeways and different compartments, and it was like amazing. So the human form of life is meant for God realization. The human form of life is meant to do austerity and purify the heart so that we can get a higher taste and go back to the spiritual world when we leave our bodies. That's the purpose of human life. Simple. So human life is meant for simple living and high thinking. That doesn't mean we live like animals, especially, us Americans, we got to have some amenities, some kind of amenities. We don't live like animals. But we learn the art of thinking, spiritual thoughts and keeping ourselves spiritual by being with other spiritual personalities. And it works. It actually works. So, there's so many people who are fighting for so many different stupid reasons. A political party, gender, race, nationality, religion, and they're fighting like cats and dogs when actually they're all human beings and there's only one source. If you could get all the religious leaders together, holding hands to all of their constituents and saying together, we're all worshiping the same God. Fighting finished. But they won't do it because it's all political. They've got different motives. They've got political motives, economic motives, power motives. But we don't care about those things. We want people to be happy. And you can't be happy on the material platform. You can only be happy on the spiritual platform. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. It was so nice to meet you guys.
It's great to meet you.
So nice to meet you.
Really, seriously. And we hope you come back.
Do y'all have a schedule, or is every day at 6:30?
Every day at 6:30, and on Saturdays and Sundays 4:30. Except for tomorrow, which I forgot to make the announcement. Oh, we're still on. Got a little carried away there, folks. We usually stop at no later than 8, but we got some wonderful souls over here just sitting for the first time, and I got carried away. Don't mind. But there was another reason for it, because tomorrow there's a program in the temple at 5. At 5. So we're going to have our reading tomorrow instead of 4:30 at 3:30. 3:30 tomorrow, and 4:30 on Sunday, and 6:30 Monday through Friday. And he runs it. We'll have some chanting over there in the temple before they come over here and hear the Bhagavatam, and you'll be happy campers. Nobody will be able to rain on your parade.
Not tonight.
Hare Krishna. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Bharat Maharaj ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow at 3:30 Central Time, USA. Hare Krishna.